There is a strange moment many visitors experience in France. You walk into a cafe, a shop, a train station, or a quiet street, and something feels different. People are not overly loud. Strangers do not rush to smile at you. A waiter may sound formal. A local may correct you without apology. Someone may disagree with you so confidently that you wonder, did I just offend them? And before long, one thought appears. Are French people just difficult? But what if the problem is not the French? What if the problem is that outsiders are using the wrong rules to understand them? In some cultures, friendliness is shown through big smiles, easy small talk, and soft words. In France, respect can look quieter. Confidence can look serious. Honesty can sound blunt. Good manners may begin with formality, not instant warmth. That is why French people confuse so many foreigners. They do not always perform politeness in the way visitors expect. They may be private before they are warm, direct before they are gentle, and critical before they are comfortable. But behind that first impression is a culture full of taste, pride, intelligence, humor, debate, and deep emotion. So in this video, we are going beyond the easy labels. Not just rude, not just romantic, not just stylish, but the real habits that make French people so fascinating, misunderstood, and unforgettable. Before we begin, tell me in the comments, have you ever met a French person? And what was your first impression? And if you enjoy videos that explain culture in a simple but powerful way, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who thinks they already understand France. Let's get started. When you ask around what French people are like, you will probably hear the same words again and again. Stylish, romantic, proud, serious, elegant, difficult, hard to impress, maybe even rude. For many outsiders, the image is already fixed before they ever meet a French person. They imagine someone sitting in a cafe, dressed perfectly without trying too hard, drinking coffee slowly, judging the world with one raised eyebrow. They imagine people who love good food, speak beautifully, argue confidently, and somehow make ordinary life look artistic. And to be honest, that image did not come from nowhere. France really does have a strong culture of style, food, art, language, manners, and opinion. Many people in France do care about how things are said, how things look, how food tastes, and how life is lived. There is often a seriousness around culture that outsiders notice quickly. But here is where many people get it wrong. That image is not completely false, but it is dangerously incomplete. Because when you reduce French people to stereotypes, you miss the human story underneath. You miss the quiet neighbor who is kind once you know them. You miss the waiter who seems cold, but is simply busy and formal. You miss the person who does not smile at strangers, but would help a friend without hesitation. The French are not one simple personality. They can be warm, private, funny, intense, polite, critical, loyal, confident, reserved, and deeply thoughtful, sometimes all in the same conversation. So the real question is not, are French people rude or charming? The better question is, why do outsiders read them that way? And one of the biggest reasons begins with something many cultures understand differently: privacy. One thing that surprises many visitors is that French people do not always perform friendliness in public. In some countries, smiling at strangers, chatting with people you barely know, and acting openly cheerful is seen as normal politeness. So when visitors arrive in France and do not receive that same energy, they may quickly think, these people are cold. But that is not always what is happening. In France, privacy matters. Personal space matters. Public life is often more controlled. Many people do not feel the need to smile at everyone, greet strangers with big excitement, or turn every small interaction into a friendly performance. That does not mean they hate you. It may simply mean they are giving you space. This is where cultures clash. A tourist may expect warmth to look loud, open, and instantly friendly. A French person may believe respect looks quieter, more formal, and less intrusive. For example, someone sitting alone in a cafe may not want to be disturbed. A person walking down the street may not feel obligated to smile at every passerby. A shop worker may greet you politely, but not act like your new best friend. To some visitors, that feels distant. To many French people, it feels normal. And once you understand this, the picture changes. What looks like coldness may actually be a boundary. What feels unfriendly may simply be a different idea of respect. French warmth often appears slowly. It may not come at the first meeting. It may not arrive with a big smile or loud enthusiasm. But once trust is built, the same reserved person can become funny, loyal, generous, and surprisingly affectionate. So yes, French people can seem private, but private does not mean empty. It often means they choose carefully who gets close. And this same habit of control also appears in the way many French people speak, because their directness can shock foreigners even more. French communication can feel sharp if you are not used to it. A French person may correct your pronunciation. They may disagree with you openly. They may say a meal is bad, an idea is weak, a plan makes no sense, or an outfit does not work. And they may say it without wrapping the message in 10 layers of softness. For some foreigners, that feels rude. But in France, direct speech is not always meant to hurt you. Sometimes it is simply seen as honesty. People may value clarity more than comfort. They may prefer saying what they actually think instead of pretending everything is fine. That can be difficult for visitors from cultures where politeness often means softening every opinion. In those places, people may avoid direct disagreement. They may smile even when they are annoyed. They may say, "That's interesting," when they really mean, "I completely disagree." France often plays a different game. If something is wrong, someone may say it is wrong. If your French sentence sounds strange, someone might correct it. If a waiter is busy, they may not hide their impatience behind a big customer service smile. But this is where outsiders need to be careful. Direct does not always mean cruel. A French person can challenge your idea and still like you. They can correct your sentence and still respect your effort. They can debate strongly and still enjoy the conversation. In fact, for many people in France, speaking honestly can be a sign that they are taking the conversation seriously. Of course, some people are rude. Every country has rude people, but not every blunt response is an attack. Sometimes it is just a culture where words are expected to carry weight. And that same controlled, intentional way of living also shows up in something foreigners notice almost immediately: French style. When people talk about French style, they often imagine luxury brands, expensive clothes, runway fashion, and perfect Paris streets. But real French style is usually more subtle than that. It is not always about looking rich. It is not always about wearing something loud. And it is definitely not always about trying to impress everyone in the room. Often, the goal is to look put together without looking desperate for attention. That is why French style can feel effortless from the outside. Simple coats, clean shoes, neutral colors, good fit, a scarf placed carefully, but not too carefully. Hair that looks natural, but still controlled. Clothes that do not scream, but quietly say, "I know what I am doing." This is what many foreigners misunderstand. French style is not only fashion, it is attitude. It is the idea that taste matters, but taste should not look forced. You should care, but not look like you are begging people to notice. You should be elegant, but not over-decorated. You should look natural, even when the choice was intentional. That is why flashy dressing can sometimes feel out of place in certain French settings. Too much effort can look less stylish than quiet confidence. And this does not mean every French person dresses perfectly. France is diverse. People have different incomes, regions, habits, and personalities. Not everyone is walking around like a fashion magazine, but the cultural idea is real. Presentation matters. How you dress, how you speak, how you eat, how you carry yourself. All of these can say something about taste. And in France, Taste is not a small thing, because the same seriousness that appears in clothing also appears at the table, in language, in art, and even in everyday opinions. They take food, language, and taste seriously. This is where French culture becomes fun, because many French people do not treat taste as a small detail. Food is not just food. Bread is not just bread. Coffee is not just coffee. Cheese is not just something you throw into a meal without thinking. In France, these things can become part of identity, memory, pride, and daily life. A bad baguette can be judged. A weak coffee can be discussed. Overcooked pasta can become a small tragedy. Cheese can inspire opinions that sound almost political, and if you eat too fast, drink carelessly, or treat a meal like a task to finish, someone may quietly wonder what is wrong with you. That is because food in France is often connected to rhythm, pleasure, and respect. A meal is not only about filling your stomach. It can be about slowing down, choosing well, talking, tasting, and enjoying the moment properly. But taste goes beyond food. Language matters too. Many French people care deeply about words, pronunciation, grammar, and expression. Art matters. Conversation matters. Design matters. Even small choices can be treated as signs of education, personality, or culture. This is one reason foreigners sometimes feel judged in France. It can seem as if people have opinions about everything. But, from another angle, that is exactly what makes French culture fascinating. There is a strong belief that life should not be lived carelessly. Things should have quality. Words should have meaning. Food should have flavor. Clothes should have balance. Ideas should be questioned. Of course, not every French person is a food expert, art critic, or grammar defender. But the culture itself gives taste a special place. And when people care deeply about taste, they also tend to care deeply about opinions. That is why debate becomes another important part of understanding the French. Debate is part of the culture. In many cultures, disagreement is uncomfortable. People avoid it. They soften it. They change the subject quickly because they do not want tension. But in France, disagreement can be part of the conversation itself. A French person may question your idea, challenge your argument, correct a detail, or push you to explain what you really mean. To an outsider, it may feel like fighting, but often, it is not personal. It can be a sign that the discussion is alive. This is one of the most interesting things about French social life. Conversation is not always meant to be smooth and empty. It can be sharp, playful, intellectual, and intense. People may enjoy testing ideas. They may argue about politics, food, language, cinema, history, or society with real energy. And after all that disagreement, they may still sit together, drink, laugh, and continue as if nothing terrible happened. That can confuse visitors. Someone from a softer communication culture may think, "Why are they attacking me?" But the French person may be thinking, "We are having a real conversation." This does not mean every French person loves debate. It does not mean every argument is friendly. But there is a strong cultural respect for thinking, questioning, and not accepting everything too easily. In France, having an opinion can matter. Defending that opinion can matter even more. That is why French confidence sometimes gets mistaken for arrogance. When people speak with certainty, correct details, or challenge weak arguments, outsiders may see pride. But sometimes, what they are seeing is a culture that respects intelligence, clarity, and verbal skill. This is also why foreigners often misread the French. They expect warmth to sound gentle, agreement to show politeness, and service to feel cheerful. But France does not always follow those rules, and that misunderstanding explains so much. Why foreigners misread them. Many foreigners do not misunderstand French people because they are foolish. They misunderstand them because they arrive with the wrong social map. They expect friendliness to look one way. They expect politeness to sound one way. They expect customer service, small talk, smiling, disagreement, and public behavior to follow the rules they already know. Then France gives them something different. A waiter is formal instead of cheerful. A stranger does not smile back. A A shop worker expects a proper greeting before service. A local corrects their French. Someone disagrees strongly at dinner. People in public seem calm, reserved, and hard to impress. And the visitor thinks, they are rude. But the real story is more complicated. In France, respect may begin with formality. Privacy may be seen as normal. Directness may be valued more than fake enthusiasm. Public behavior may be quieter. A serious face may not mean anger. A correction may not mean humiliation. A lack of small talk may not mean rejection. The problem is not always the behavior itself. The problem is interpretation. Tourists often judge French habits using their own cultural expectations. If they come from a place where warmth is loud, French reserve feels cold. If they come from a place where service is overly friendly, French formality feels harsh. If they come from a place where disagreement is softened, French debate feels aggressive. But once you stop expecting France to behave like somewhere else, many things begin to make sense. You start seeing patterns instead of insults. You notice that politeness exists, but it has its own rules. Warmth exists, but it may take time. Humor exists, but it may be dry. Kindness exists, but it may not always come with a big smile. And that leads us to the final truth. French people cannot be reduced to one simple label. Final truth. French people are not one thing. So what are French people really like? The honest answer is this. They are not one thing. France is too large, too diverse, and too complex for one description to fit everyone. A person from Paris may not behave like someone from Marseille. Someone from a small village may not have the same habits as someone from Lyon, Lille, Toulouse, or Bordeaux. Age, class, family, region, personality, and background all matter. So, no, not every French person is stylish. Not every French person is rude. Not every French person is romantic, serious, proud, private, or difficult. But culture does leave patterns. Many outsiders notice that French people often value privacy, confidence, taste, directness, independence, and good conversation. They may not always show warmth immediately. They may care about how things are done. They may have strong opinions. They may respect intelligence, style, food, language, and personal space in ways that surprise visitors. And that is what makes them fascinating. The French can be charming and frustrating, reserved and passionate, critical and generous, formal at first, but warm once trust is built. They may challenge you, correct you, ignore you, help you, impress you, or confuse you, sometimes in the same day. That is why the stereotype never tells the full story. French people are not just the romantic figures from films. They are not just the rude waiters from tourist complaints. They are not just stylish people in cafes. They are real people, shaped by a culture that often values depth over performance, taste over noise, and honesty over empty friendliness. So now I want to hear from you. What do you think French people are really like? Charming, rude, stylish, private, or simply misunderstood? Drop your answer in the comments below. And if this video helped you see French culture differently, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who thinks they already understand the French. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.